Welcome to Chai with Ping. This is Ping Robert. In this podcast, I cover immigrant stories, cross-cultural experiences, and minority issues. Join me with a cup of chai and take a listen. Woohoo! Okay, just to be safe, because there were times that I always remember the first recording I got with my friend and the file was lost.
Oh yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna start. You ready?
Let's go.
Welcome back to Chai with Ping. My name is Ping, and thank you so much for tuning in to my show. And then if you haven't subscribed or follow us, please do that on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast. And then I'm also available on Facebook or Instagram, so do reach out and then share your feedback with me. 让我们欢迎 Kevin.
谢谢 Thank you for having me. Very fun. I always call myself 混血儿。
对啊，你是混血儿，所以你的爸爸妈妈是什么种族，哪一国人？
我爸爸是美国人，妈妈原来是香港，广东香港，more like that area.
Okay.
Yeah. So. 但是都是在科罗拉多，
都在科州长大。
科州长大。Yeah. So I was born here, and I have both of the influences.
Yeah. So you're the second generation immigrant， 就第二代的移民，因为你妈妈是
kind of
第一代。
Kind of. I mean, she was born in Hong Kong, but she grew up in America. So.
他很小就来美国了，对不对？OK，
跟2岁。
OK， 他会说广东话吗？
会。台山
话啊，对，那应该是广东来的，可能不是香港，是不是
？Born in Hong Kong, but family from 台山。
OK， 那你的外公外婆是来这里做什么的
？They opened a restaurant, one of the first Chinese restaurants in Denver.
真的
back in the 1960s.
OK.
Yeah.
现在还有吗
？No, 没有，关门了。
OK.
Yeah, but they were open for business for over 30 years.
Yeah.
And so that was where I grew up as a child too, playing in the restaurant. And yeah.
在哪里？在 Aurora 吗
？No, 在 Lakewood. Yeah, 在那个 Colfax, West Colfax.
Wow.
Near Casa Bonita.
Okay, I have no idea where that is, but I need to check it out. 所以你从小就在那个餐厅长大，可是外公外婆后来就决定关起来。
Yes, I was a restaurant kid.
Okay. Restaurant grandkid.
Yeah, restaurant grandkid. Exactly. 没错。
所以在你们家，那你听得懂台山话吗？
一点点，
但他们不太说，是不是？
不是，他们不说的事情是他们没有时间教我们台山话，而且我觉得如果你是中国人在科州丹佛科州，很难，
真的很难。
Yeah， 因为the Chinese community isn't as big, and so to put all that pressure onto my mom, or like I have uncles too, for them to take that responsibility to teach their children language, it was very impractical in modern American society.
对
所
以他们很希望你学好英文，是吗？
It was never an issue because like my mom and my uncles, if you talk to them, they sound 100% American.
Yeah, because they grew up here.
Yeah. And I think at that time, there was a lot of anti-communist, yellow fear, yellow scare. What do they call that? The yellow
fever?
Not yellow fever. That's something else.
Yeah.
That's what my dad had.
有点排华政策，对不对？ Like Chinese Exclusion Act thing.
Well, that was a long time ago, but I think that sentiment stayed around, and so maybe my mom and her brothers didn't want to emphasize their Chinese-ness that much, even though they were, working at the restaurants but they were still going to school with majority white people. And so there's kind of, this kind of slow Americanization of the family.
Okay.
So
how did your parents meet? 你记得吗？ 他们是学校一起的吗？
不是，因为我爸比我妈大7岁。
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So actually, they met at university.
Okay.
And it was because my father dropped out of university and then came back.
Oh.
And so later met my mom.
Okay. 那他们以前是学什么的？
我妈妈是 political science major.
对，政治。对。
Yeah, and 我爸是 math.
真的这么厉害，数学。
Yeah.
哇 ，OK。可是你念的是西班牙文。对。所以你比较喜欢语言。
And I think I really like languages because when I was a kid, I always heard Toisanese around me, but I could never speak it. So it was always this great mystery about, I recognize that this is a different language, but I can't speak it. So it came out like that desire to learn languages came out later in life. And obviously Spanish is more easy. It's like more practical, easier to learn in Colorado.
所以你在高中的时候就修了西班牙文，然后在大学的时候再修，还是你高中没有修？
在高中。Yeah.
Okay. Wow. 所以学西班牙文，可是后来为什么会去中国教 ESL 教英文呢？
其实我不知道。No.
你确定我们今天要聊天吗？
No,
你不太知道。
No, I think it's because I love languages. That's a big part of it. I think I remember in college, at the end of college, I was finishing my Spanish major at University of Colorado.
Okay.
I studied abroad, and so I wanted to be abroad. But my goal was to be able to speak and teach the world's 3 most spoken languages.
英文、西班牙文跟中文吗？
对。
好酷 OK.
Yeah, but at that time I didn't speak almost any Chinese. So, so that's, that's how I ended up in Shanghai at 25 years old.
Wow. 所以你是透过一个 agency 嘛，一个中介，然后他们让你
不是
直接去
我自己找到了一个学校。
OK.
Yeah, EF.
我知道，现在还有 EF， 在台湾也有。对，它是一个留学代办，然后还有英文的。
他们有好多对 business model。
对，他们会带学生去外国学英文什么的。
这是一部分他们的工作。
对。然后你就去教那里的学生。
不是，我是Kids English teacher. So EF-Shanghai has a lot of children's centers, adult centers, and so I started at the kids center.
Wow.
Yeah.
你喜欢教孩子吗？
Oh yeah.
真的，你比较喜欢教小朋友
？So much fun.
哇，我跟你相反，因为我比较喜欢教大人。我觉得小朋友好累哦。
Yeah. You need a lot of energy.
然后你要跟他们玩。
Right. Well, that's the fun part. If you can play, but also maintain this position of authority, it can be quite fun. It's like some people say that to be a good teacher, you have to be a good actor. And I think that is especially true with children because they respond so well to like dramatic kind of body language and the way you play with your voice and things like that. So.
可是你不会想不到游戏要玩什么吗？因为我常常以前说这个英文要怎么教，然后要玩一个游戏，可是我就会不知道要玩什么游戏。
Well, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can use things that are already there. But then I think once you're around it, like it took me probably at least a year or so of teaching kids before I started to make up my own games and doing those in class and making it a lot of fun. So, just being in that mindset, that like playful mindset is like really fun and just, I don't know, it's contagious,
对，小朋友大概几岁？
从4岁到18岁。
都在一班吗？
不是，
那你教几岁？
这是 language center.
Okay.
所以 like what do they call it? 外课外
有点像补习班，对不对？外语学校。
Yeah, like
外语补习班。
It's like an extracurricular.
对，课外的学校。
Yeah. So yeah, so you know. 比如如果是一个叫什么周末的时候，
对，
小朋友的爸爸妈妈都
送他们去
学英文，
对，
所以 like for example like in the morning I would have a class of like 7 or 8 year olds, and then in the afternoon I would have a group of teenagers, and then and then at night maybe like have preschoolers or something like that, or like, you know, a whole mix. It could be, you know, at EF I taught students as young as 4 years old, and also as old as like 60 years old with some of the private, private adult students. So it was like a crash course in how to teach and to learn about Chinese culture and Chinese education and things like that. So
所以你在教英文的时候你也学中文？
不是not at the same time, because I find it very difficult to teach a language full time and then also study a language full time. Like your mind just turns into so
变成一碗粥。
Yeah,
有点太多了。
Yeah. So really, what I did, I taught for a year and a half, and then I said, oh, okay, I really want to learn Chinese full time, because I was learning passively from my students, right? A lot of, you know, kids talk.
老师，我要。
Yeah, 老师
他打我。
我好了。Yeah, this kind of thing. 老师都是老师 or they would just say it in English. Say, teacher, I am finished, or teacher, you know, and they were telling me that, you know, like I literally learned so much colloquial speak from my students that I wanted to go learn it formally and kind of, you know, build a foundation of 中文. So yeah, so it wasn't until like my second year in Shanghai that I became a full-time student.
Okay, 所以你在那可能你到第2年的时候你还在同样的 EF 教。Okay.
Yeah.
那你总共在上海待了多久？
一共5年多。
然后都在 EF 吗？
不是，我开始的时候那个第1、第2、第3年是都是在 EF 工作。然后呢我决定去厦门学中文，在厦大所以1年在厦大学中文考 HSK 的那个考试。
对，为什么去厦门？
因为我的女朋友原来是福建人，所以她在福建有家人，所以而且那个上海的生活太快，对，所以搬到厦门很安静，很干净，
就会慢一点。所以那个女朋友就是现在你的太太吗？
是她。
你们交往了7年，整个7年在中国的7年都在一起吗？
不是So okay, we started in Shanghai, we went to Xiamen, and then we came back to US. And so this is like the nature of meeting your significant other in another country. So we came back to Denver, and I was still teaching English, but at community college level. But we kind of got so accustomed to life in China that we really missed it. So we really came back for a year and then returned to Shanghai. And that's when we did another 2 years at Gaozhong High School, like international high school. So it was different than the EF days. It was more
cram school. 就是之前是课外的，不是一般的学校，可是后来你在 国际学校，对，它是正规的学校。OK， 你们2个都一起申请去同一个学校教，好酷哦！那你们就是 role model couple 不是吗？Teacher couple， 学生很喜欢你们，对不对
？Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're always buying us like romantic gifts, because that was like right before we got married, and so they would buy very suggestive gifts about.
他们不会问你们什么时候要结婚吗？Oh yeah. 问你们有没有结婚
？Not the students so much, but more like the colleagues.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
压力越来越很大。
大家都在问你们什么时候结婚。
哇，你们一起那么长时间，我为什么没有结婚？So.
但是你们就觉得没关系，反正慢慢。
Yeah, I mean, it's like modern American kind of couple.
对。
And plus, when you live abroad, I think it slows things down because you can't immediately meet the parents.
对。
So you say, okay, yeah, nice to meet you on FaceTime, but it takes a year or two to meet, and then family and friends beyond that, slower process.
所以你太太的家也在科州？
不是康州
，Connecticut， 所以也比较难见到岳父岳母。
对，
了解 ，OK。那你在中国教英文的时候，有没有什么特别有趣的事
？Oh my god，
很难吗？
Teaching English in China, it
was pure fun.
Pure fun. Well, it was super challenging too because I, coming from an American background, like American education background, where you are encouraged to ask questions and be very independent in the way you think, like going into the traditional teacher is God, and this kind of thing was interesting to me. Like it definitely took adjustments. Like I had to learn how to lead like that, and to help my students also think outside of the box, because that's a lot of what Chinese parents want their students to learn. They want them to learn like a Western style of thinking and learning. So it was like this never-ending balancing act.
对，好像老师很大，可是学生又要回答问题，然后要比较活泼，像美国的方式，可是又不一定。所以你的班上有很多学生吗？
没有那么多。Average size is maybe like 20.
20个学生还是蛮多的。可是你就是中国的家长会希望他们都做好，是不是？
Yeah.
可是教英文常常会起来玩，不是吗
？Well, it's like normally like 正常的中文的课有40多的学生，yeah， 所以
有20个还是会坐着啊。
Yeah, well, it's high school, but it was actually high school, so teenagers and their moodiness, and it was actually a boarding school as well.
Okay.
So all of the students lived on campus, and they were, typical, like maybe 富二代, what do they call them? They're almost like celebrities, like they, like from rich families, 高富帅,白富美,等等, right? Like a lot of money, going out, partying on the weekends, and so yes, there were serious students who were very focused, but then there were also those students who were just maybe being pushed into it by their parents. But it was an interesting time because it was 2000. We moved there in 2013, when things were still relatively liberal, I would say. And
对，那时候比较开放一点，现在比较紧。对。所以你的高中部也是在厦门？
高中在上海。
所以又回去上海了。
Yeah， 我第二个家。
对，哇！可是你又搬回上海，为什么
？Money，
国际学校也很多。
Yeah, level of lifestyle.
对
，it's just. I love Shanghai. Shanghai is an amazing place. Like the energy is incredible. But it can also eat you up you know. I think that's why we ended up moving eventually, because it's just so fast that it's hard to slow down and relax, but it can be addicting, like especially at that age, you know, like when you're in your 20s or early 30s. Shanghai, wow, there's no other city in the world, in my opinion.
在那里也有很多不同国家的人，对不对？国际的人。那你们的朋友也都是他们吗？还是也有中国的朋友？
有很多说英语的。Yeah, like obviously because we have, you know, a lot of fellow English teachers, so met a lot of people from England, United Kingdom. But you know, in Shanghai, and a friend of mine used to say, in Shanghai, you can go out any night of the week and you can meet up with, you know,
很多人都可以
like in different ages too. Like it could be anybody from anywhere in any age. So you know, one night you go out and you meet you know, exchange students from Bulgaria. Like I had a roommate from Bulgaria that I lived with. But you know, and then you also run into like a banker from Dubai or something like this. Like it's just such a international city, especially for China. Beijing, of course, Guangzhou, you have Shenzhen, you have these pockets too. But yeah, just a very dynamic environment to be in, that can be, you know, super stimulating.
所以你比较喜欢 EF 还是高中部的工作，还是你怎么看？他们有什么不一样？
我觉得如果你是新的老师，对 EF is a great place to learn， 因为 it's not really like a formal official school. It's more of like have fun, additional, right? Like it's more about building a positive attitude about learning English and learning about culture, and so you do a lot of fun things, like we would go to like Papa John's and make pizzas with the kids, or you know, go on. When I was there, it was Beijing 奥运会，所以有好多。
你可以带学生出去活动是吗？
Yeah. So it's like very fun for a young teacher.
对，而且很有弹性，可以做很多事。
Yeah， 而且 EF 有好多其他的老师 ，Yeah, from everywhere. So it's like social. It's like your social life is built into your professional life. 对。So it's like very convenient. You show up, you get your name tag, you get your uniform, and you meet your new family. 对。Like in the teacher's office. So I think from that perspective, it's like a great introduction to China, because a lot of foreigners show up in China and they feel like super alone, and they don't speak Chinese, and so it can be very intimidating. And I've seen so many times that these teachers just are gone after 1 month or 2 months, and because they can't. So you need that circle, you know, to enter into and feel supported. So
那 EF 也会教你们怎么教英文吗？还是你们会讨论？
No, you have to have a certificate before you arrive. But I think now they have their own in-house certificate. But yeah, I actually did my certification before I went to China. So yeah, that's a different story. But I did that in Spain, actually, in Barcelona.
When you're studying abroad?
After. So I finished my bachelor's. 然后呢会去西班牙学习我的那个英文教英文的 certificate。对，
我知道现在线上有很多 ESL certificate 就可以修，然后好像是20小时、40小时就可以拿到。
Yeah. The one that I did was like kind of gold standard, CELTA from Cambridge. So
wow, 好 fancy 哦。
Not really. It sounds fancy. 不是那么 fancy.
就是从 Cambridge 来的，那剑桥大学。
Right. Yeah. When you say when you put Cambridge on anything, it can sound good. But yeah, it was rigorous, but really it was only 1 month, like intensive month. Whereas yes, you know, 有好多学校 they offer like, you know, you can finish your certificate online in you know 1 week, or you know something like that, and it's just all theory and kind of, you know, modules that is not that great. But you know, I think any native speaker of any language has the potential to be a good teacher from the get-go, because you learn so much as a student yourself, no matter. But teaching, as you know, is not as easy as it looks, right?
So,
but when you're in those low pressure situations like EF, where it's more about fun,
就慢慢培养。那家长会很难搞吗？因为像学生的家长，他们不是付了很多钱让学生去学英文，他们会不会希望老师要怎么样？
Yeah, there can be that kind of like criticism and pressure and stuff like that. But I think in my experience, as long as the students were enjoying themselves, right? 开心的学习, right? Like that kind of, you know, they see that they're, you know, and we would have like open door classes. You would, right? You would put on like kind of a show, and the kids sing a song or they play a game, and they show that they're learning. You know, as long as the kids are learning, parents are happy. 因为我听过很多 ESL 老师，尤其是美国或加拿大他们去的，他们就会说中国很喜欢白人的老师。那你是因为你是混血儿，那家长会问你问题。I'll tell you what I did. I didn't experience much racism in Shanghai because I think it's so international. They understand these things, but in Xiamen, I applied for a job with an airline company to teach their pilots English. And I was turned down for the job, and the boss says, you know, it was a Canadian guy. He told me, I think you're qualified. You obviously have plenty of experience. We would love to have you, but I can't sell you. I can't sell your face. So I said, well, I get it. Like, it can be very petty and shallow and kind of thing. So, that was an interesting experience. And my wife, or my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, she also was doubted as an English native speaker from children's parents. And the school in Xiamen where we also worked at it with the kids' school, the parents demanded that they would go out. They demanded that they go out to eat. And she had to prove her English ability with the manager who was a white guy. And so it was like a very my wife was kind of pissed. Well, I mean, they had to kind of kiss their ass, a little bit. Right? 拍马屁, right?
对，没错。
You have to.
所以你女朋友当时候的女朋友，她就去了吗？她就去吃饭了。
Yeah, she said she wasn't scared. She was going to prove that they're real American.
Okay.
And she did. Because I mean, most of the parents, I mean, there are some parents who actually have a decent level of English. But I think the majority, at least when we were there, their English was mama hoo hoo. And so if it doesn't take long to realize that another person is like native in the language. So they'll say, okay, right? They just have to change their outlook.
因为我觉得你们比较有趣的是，因为大部分在亚洲的 ESL 老师，他们可能都是美国人、南非、加拿大人，就是跟华人看起来不一样的人。所以他们就比较不会遇到这个。然后当然也有像黑人，他们可能就不一定会是一样的。可是你们长的是华人的脸的时候，受到的挑战比较大一点。
Yeah, I think it helps that I'm also very tall and big.
对。Yeah. 所以你太太比较小一点吗？
Oh yeah, definitely.
对，如果你太太很高的话，他们可能会觉得对，他是美国人，是不是
？Maybe, yeah. 他是南方人。
对 ，OK.
所以 yeah. But yeah, I think my size helps me, and like the way I dress and carry myself is like clearly American.
对，而且你是混血儿，所以我们还是会很多人觉得他就是混血儿，所以也是美国人。
So sometimes I think it was more of an advantage at times because I'm familiar enough to connect with like culturally, but then I could offer like the international linguistic benefits to the children or whatever stuff like that. So yeah.
Wow. 你觉得因为在 ESL 很多老师都是女生，你觉得你是一个男生，是不是有比较好的优势？
Yeah, I think it helps to balance out the school, the energy in the school, yin yang. Yeah.
因为你的同事很多都是女生，对不对？
Well, actually, at EF, it was probably 50-50.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely in the high school, it's like probably 70-30 women, which, you know, it's kind of similar here in America, right? Like most public schools, it's like majority women. And so
middle class, white, female.
Yeah. Right.
That's statistically, 就是研究上面写说，我们大概70%的老师都是白人女性。
Yeah. So I took it as like an opportunity to represent men in education, and I think it was something good for me because I've always had a good, strong relationship with my teachers as a student, and so I just kind of wanted to be a teacher, and so I was something that I was proud to do and like really took seriously because there's a lot. I think sometimes I've noticed in schools, like boys act out a lot. And I think sometimes it might have to be because it might have something to do with the underrepresentation of male role models in schools and things like that. So I think I took that upon myself and made sure to like lead a lot of clubs, and I was a basketball coach and, did a lot of extracurricular stuff. So that, at least there's an opportunity for students to interact with like an older male role model.
你觉得学生比较喜欢你吗？
Well, yeah.
男老师的话
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, you can tell from my personality that like I would be like a fun teacher. Right. And like if in the middle of the class we're, we need to have a chat about something serious, I can also do that. Okay. And so, yeah, I think so. I went to Columbine High School here in the US, and we had a big shooting. That affected me very deeply. And so ever since then I felt like I love to be a part of school community and to build that through the classroom as an administrator and things like that. So like being able to connect with students and fellow colleagues is like super important to me because it's so strong. Question.
我有问题，等一下，所以 Columbine 这个高中枪击案的时候，你在高中里吗？Yeah. 什么？
Yeah.
就发生的时候，你就是学生。
Yeah. I was a junior, third year student.
哇，所以就是如果是我们中文的话，应该也是高2的学生。
Yeah, right.
哇
Yeah, 9年。
对，可以聊一下这个吗？会不会很可怕？
Yeah, it was super scary. It was very confusing. Luckily, I was like at lunch, we were allowed to go off campus for lunch. And so I was eating lunch. And then when we came back, the shooting had begun and the police had already closed off the streets and, all chaos had broken loose. So yeah, 好可怕。
真的很可怕。
Yeah, 跟17岁，you have all these people get killed in your school. It's like very traumatic.
在那个时候就是枪击案结束之后，有很多学生离开吗？离开学校 like transfer to other schools?
Surprisingly, no.
没有 OK.
Yeah.
因为现在有很多学校就是上次不是有 STEM 吗？2年前也有枪击案，他们就有一半的学生还有老师都离开了。
Okay.
对，就不愿意待在那个学校里面。
Yeah, I mean, the communities, for the most part, really came together after that and stuck with the school. Of course, there were some who couldn't stand coming back, and it was just super too traumatized. But I think, yeah, but for the most part, like that community, we're in this together kind of 态度 was what carried us through the next year and then beyond. So I had to go back the year after, and I think that kind of cemented my my belief that like school community is like super important and for a lot of different things. So I definitely attribute that to why I'm in education today.
Just like you want to bring good impact to students, teachers, and like the whole community. Wow.
For sure.
我不知道哇，原来你就在这么有名的枪击案里面，好可怕
Infamous though, not really, famous.
对
Infamous, yeah, but.
哇 ，OK， 那所以你后来在高中部教有很困难吗？或有什么挑战 challenges?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, I think all teenagers are going through serious stuff. So yeah, like when I would meet with my advisory group or something like that, and there would be kids with problems at home or problems at school, getting suspended or getting in trouble. Like I definitely wanted to sit down with them and hear them, listen to them, and let them know that they're not alone going through it, you know, because things are so exaggerated in high school, right? You feel like
groups and all that.
Yeah.
你是我的朋友，他是我的朋友。
Yeah.
对，
Oh, yeah.
我们不要理他，我们不喜欢。
他说这个。
对对对。
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, and it's such a melodrama that needs some calming down. So I think I can bring some sort of calming presence to the school, to my classroom for the students. So
我在 Netflix 上面看一个 documentary， 它是 like girls prison， 然后他们就说 90% of the girls they act out because they have something bad at home。 你觉得你在学生身上也看到吗？就是家里面有问题，他们在学校也会有比较大的问题。
Definitely, 100%.
OK.
Yeah.
Oh.
And they just don't know how to deal with their emotions, especially on top of all the hormones going through their system. So it's like, of course they're going to act out, and instead of reacting to them with punishments, I heard this recently, like there's this movement to like replace school detention with meditation, right? Like to give students a tool to deal with their outbursts. And stuff like that. I think that's a great way to help kids instead of just punish them, or, you know. Because I think we had detention in the school in Shanghai, and so if a student was late or they, you know, were up too late at night, they would have to go to detention and just be in silence and put their head on their table, and it was such an old school kind of prison model that was kind of silly.
对，可是 detention 中文是什么？就是禁闭室嘛，就是会被关在一个教室里面，然后大家就是不能做什么事情，对不对？
Yeah.
在台湾的学校比较没有，在中国的一般学校会有 detention 吗？
At least at our school we had it.
OK， 他们就，然后你们的学校是比较美国式的。
I think it's the 国际部. Yeah, 国际部 we had it, and so.
OK.
Or like sometimes they would make them go and clean up the campus.
OK， 这个我们中国和台湾都有，对，要去打扫。
Yeah.
OK。那你在高中部教课的时候有什么好玩的事吗？
Oh my God, so much fun stuff, like the Teachers' Day. Of course, every year Teachers' Day, which we don't really celebrate here in the US, they would put on a performance for us and do dances and singing and stuff like that. That was like super fun and interesting. And then the teachers would like put on like holiday stuff, like so Christmas, Thanksgiving. We would like cook a Thanksgiving meal and eat around a big table, like put all our school desks together and eat in the school, and then go on outings to like Chongming Island or Pudong, and you know, go volunteer at like a kindergarten, and like I said, we did some student clubs and stuff like that. So I started a tree planting club through Roots and Shoots. Jane Goodall Foundation. So we were going around raising money to plant trees and Neimenggu. And so there's just like
很丰富哎，
oh my
很多
God
活动，对
a lot. Photography club, cooking club. It's like so much, like since the students were always living there, they always needed something to do. And you know, and the teachers were always wanting to do something, so they're not just on their phones or laptops playing games all the time. So it was like, but like basketball, of course, super popular in China. Just a lot. But it's like, you know, 很累, right?
因为你要忙很多事情，对，你要教课之外，你还要去当 coach， 然后还有别的活动，然后你还要带学生出去，对不对？
需要戴很多帽子。
对，有很多顶帽子要戴，没错，对不对？那你在这个时候，你还是在学中文吗？还是已经学完了
？Like I said, it's like it's tough to study and teach full time at the same time. So kind of like passively study. I mean, 如果你在中国，你的生活 什么都有中文 right
对
there's 坐出租车坐地铁
对
在餐厅都是中文所以 it's like you can definitely continue to absorb
对
and to learn more
对
but not so much like in like a formal setting so
了解对
yeah 所以如果我在上海的出租车我觉得我的中文比较流利
对，你就可以在一般生活里面说到很多中文对叫车的时候点菜也可以吗对对对买菜也可以对
服务员服务员快点啊我们有几个菜好你这个够不够够
所以就很够因为你在这些地方你都可以用中文然后其他就用英文
yeah socially
okay
yeah. we had definitely had Chinese friends through EF and through the high school we would have like co-teachers and things like that so we made some good friendships with Chinese local Chinese people and so I definitely have fond memories of working together and going to KTV and even traveling I have a very good friend from Harbin and so went to Harbin during the snow festival and had some good Shanghainese friends to visit get to know the local cuisines and stuff like that eating pigeon like 鸽子
对鸽子吃
oh my god so good so salty so good
所以你喜欢吃
yeah
OK
oh yeah
那可是你看你刚刚在上海跟厦门你都有这么棒的生活你为什么后来离开了呢你刚刚说上海太忙了对不对还有别的原因吗是不是要结婚呢还是怎么样
I mean yeah we moved back to get married and we considered moving back to China but really our families are all in the US I mean my wife half of my wife's family her father's side is still in Fujian
okay
so that was a strong connection like that was really cool to be close to them and have that insight into traditional Fujianese life which is similar to Taiwan right like, so that was super cool but you're also living it was in Chenzhou is like third tier city heavily polluted like super interesting from a cultural standpoint but from a lifestyle standpoint it's like
很难住下去对不对
受不了
就有点太难了太辛苦了
yeah 太辛苦了 yeah so we were really spoiled by Shanghai but even Shanghai was too far and too fast for us to after you get married you want to be around your parents and have kids and stuff like that so that was like the biggest reason but I went back to Shanghai in 2017 that was the last time I went there and it will always be my second home always for sure so I can't wait to go back
对我觉得我们在一个地方住过了就会有不一样的感情然后常常回去的话就会很想念那时候的时间
yeah in Spanish there's a saying that like if you speak another language then you have another heart and so I think that's definitely the case for Chinese right 如果你说其他的语言你加一个
就会你会有另外一个心
yeah
对另外一个情感还有文化没错
上海永久
对就永远是你第二个家你觉得什么样的人适合去中国教 ESL
what kind of people are good for that
对
somebody who is up for adventure and okay with uncertainty because living in China especially Shanghai like things change so much and you have to be the expats always talked about having a China day like, that person's having a China day right all these things that go wrong right like terrible traffic or 房东来了 right like you have to get out or you've got fired from your job there's an immigration raid and you lose your visa or something like that you have to be ready for anything and I think my first year was really tough I think if you can get through the first year then you can get through anything in China right but yeah there's like I said before China is not for everybody. There's plenty of 外国人在上海1个月2个月没了，
对，就走了。
Yeah.
对，所以可能需要一些弹性 like the flexibility will be pretty important for
flexibility. Yeah. Able to handle ambiguous situations, but just an open mind and adventure, a sense of adventure.
对，
很重要。
对，哇。
But you know, some people do really well.
他们很喜欢中国的
They love it.
环境，对。
And sometimes they do really well in like a small town.
对。
Where they can be like the local 外国人 celebrity,
对
right? Like they're the only person that looks different, and so they become, you know, like this kind of mythical character.
然后他们可能中文会讲很好。
Maybe, or they don't speak any Chinese at all, and they just take pictures with everybody, and they're kind of like this honorary foreigner.
Yeah, like a lucky cat for the town.
Yeah.
像招财猫一样。对，哇，真的哇，很谢谢你跟我们分享你的故事。在我们结束之前，有没有 anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, I miss China. I can't wait to go back one day. It's tough with having a family, but hopefully maybe through work or something like that. I think Chinese-American relationship is super important. I also want to go to Taiwan. I've never been to Taiwan. Taipei would be really cool.
欢迎你来。
Yeah, cool, so cool. But yeah, China is such a, you know, just being in Asia too is so cool. Shanghai specifically can be so central to Eastern Asia, right? It's easy to travel and to know China too. So, 我爱中国。
好啊，你是不是有个 YouTube channel？ 你要跟我们介绍一
下吗？ yeah.
叫什么名字？
It's called Here We Go with Kevin. I'm Kevin. Here We Go with Kevin and Chaaad with 3 A's, CHAAAD. It's kind of a joke.
Okay.
But yeah, we started off as a travel channel, but because of the pandemic, yeah, so 我们在丹佛 review like restaurants and breweries because in Denver there's a lot of good beer.
对，这里有不错的酒厂，所以你会去看。 那你是很常上片吗？还是你是1个月1次？
We would like to do 1 per week.
Okay.
But like,
可是有点难哈。
有点难。You know how it is.
我知道，对，你看我现在都快要没有 episode 那个来找你录音。
So yeah, that would be ideal if we could get 1 episode per week. So check us out. Here we go with Kevin and Chaaad YouTube.
没问题，我会把那个连结放在资讯栏。那你有其他的 social media 要给听众知道吗？
还有 Instagram.
OK， 你的 handle 是什么
？Here we go with Kevin and Chaaad. HWGKNC. Just the letters. HWGKNC.
OK， 好，我会放在 episode note.
Do you say Instagram or you say IG?
Both. Instagram, IG 都可以啊，都可以，就大家都知道。我觉得在台湾对都有。我不知道中国人说什么。
Some say IG or Insta. INS.
对，我说那是什么？对，哇 ，OK， 我觉得它应该名字会越来越短，可能会变成 ins 或者 IG。因为这就FB。
Right.
对
，That makes sense to me. But it's funny those little differences like APP.
对。
在中国说 APP, they don't say app, they say APP.
台湾也是。
Say APP. Yeah, that sounds funny to Americans.
因为 app 有点太英文了。
Right. You want APP?
对。
It's like QQ.
没错，还有微信。好我们今天非常谢谢 Kevin， 然后我会把你刚刚的那些连结我放在资讯栏，大家有兴趣的话都可以去找 Kevin。今天非常谢谢你来，
谢谢大家，再见，
拜拜。Thanks for listening to Chai with Ping. If you think someone will benefit from this episode, don't forget to share it with them. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. If you like my show, you can buy me some chai with small donations. Details are in the episode notes. Till next time!